Hello, everyone. I am Nick Smith, and I did my presentation on the House of Atreus. And it's about the curse of the House of Atreus. And there's a little family tree here. It's missing like Niobe, a couple other things. There's a more extended version, but I'm going to try to stick to just the stories in Hamilton here. And it all starts here at the Feast of Tantalus. And Tantalus has two children, Pelops, his son, and Niobe, his daughter. And Tantalus boils up Pelops in a cauldron. It's speculated why he's done this. No one really knows. Either he hates the gods or is trying to humble them, but he tries to feed his own son to the gods. And the gods already know. They don't partake in this feast. And they curse Tantalus and his whole household, and he can't eat or drink for the rest of his days. But since they feel sorry for Pelops and resurrect him, they start putting him back together, right? And they can't find all the pieces. He has like a missing shoulder that they have to replace with ivory. And they're like, hey, where did this shoulder go? And it starts to allude to actually Demeter and Thetis actually ate some food, ate some of Pelops, which is why he has a missing shoulder. And Pelops, he goes on to live a successful life. There's a little theme that's going to be developed too throughout the House of Atreus. And he goes on to marry Princess Hippodamia. And the book talks about Hippodamia being, I guess, like a more violent individual, or she gets people killed. All the previous suitors try to take her hand in marriage, and they would have to race against her father in chariot races. And if they lost, he would kill them. And it talks about her actually going to the charioteer or the chariot master, whoever sets up the chariots, and his name was Myrtilus. And it talks about how she might have rigged the race in Pelops's favor, so that Pelops could win her hand in marriage. But yeah, they go on to live a pretty nice, quiet, successful life, and they have two children, Atreus and Thyestes. I will note that in the book, it actually says that the House of Atreus curse starts with Pelops because he went after the chariot master Myrtilus and killed him, and Myrtilus cursed him. But I'm going to stick with the Tantalus curse for this presentation. I did think that was interesting, though. Niobe. So, Niobe, the other daughter of Tantalus, we covered Pelops, so here's Niobe. And Niobe, she had a husband, Amphion. He was a son of Zeus, and the book talks about him being a great musician. And they went on to have 14 children, 7 daughters and 7 sons. But then Niobe started getting arrogant, like her father. There was the Temple of Leto, and there was sacrifices being made to her, and Niobe's like, why are you making sacrifices to Leto? She only has 2 kids, and her 2 kids were Apollo and Artemis. She's like, I got 14 kids. You're gonna start making your sacrifices there in my honor instead of her. And when they found out about this, Apollo and Artemis came down and started raining arrows, killed all of her children. And I called this the classical equivalent of a modern day drive-by. But once she sees all of her children dead, she turns into stone, weeping. And it's stated that this rock, the stone, remains wet throughout the day and night to indicate her grief for losing her children. So Pelops had success. Niobe did not. Now we're going to move on to the sons of Pelops, Atreus and Thyestes. So Thyestes fell in love with Atreus' wife, and Atreus discovered his wife being unfaithful and his brother, going behind his back, and he kills Thyestes' children and feeds them to them. this seems very familiar to what Tantalus did, right? And he tells his brother after his brother's ate his kids, and his brother just breaks down and becomes a shell. And then Atreus just goes on to become king, right? And then we move on to the sons of Atreus. So Atreus went on to have two sons, Agamemnon and Menelaus. I have sorry if I pronounce any of these names incorrectly. And we know these characters already from Troy, right? And we're going to talk about Agamemnon first. He had three kids: Iphigenia, Iphigenia, Iphigenia. There we go. And Orestes and Electra. And Iphigenia, she gets sacrificed at the altar for fair winds for Troy, right? And while he's away, his wife Clytemnestra, she blames Agamemnon, and she takes on a lover during this time. And Agathis, that's the lover, and this is a shocker. Agathis is a son of Thyestes. See, I'm wondering where this son came from, because I thought Atreus killed Thyestes' sons, so he had to have come after. And he wanted a vengeance against Atreus, and this ties in. This is really important. So he takes it out on Agamemnon, right? But yeah, after he has success in Troy, he's able to um, go back home pretty quickly, pretty swiftly. The winds are in his favor, everything smooth sailing, right? And the book talks about how Menelaus, he actually has a rough start, right? He lost his wife originally, Helen, got her back. Then he gets stuck in a storm, and then finally he makes it back. And there isn't much reference into the House of Atreus after that. But yeah, Agamemnon, he's smooth sailing, or so he thinks for now. And then he goes on to have a bad time, which we'll talk about. And then he actually has a rough start, and then goes on to lead a nice, quiet, successful life. So it's staying on theme. So Iphigenia, the daughter of Agamemnon and Clytemnestra. So she's very important, right? She gets sacrificed at the altar by her father. Yeah, it's it. Not much to her story other than I think her point is for a sacrifice. It seems like, or was she sacrificed? Okay. Um, so we move back to his wife, Agamemnon's wife, Queen Clytemnestra, and her lover Agathis. So they were waiting when Agamemnon returned back. It's like she already had this cold, callous, like, I'm killing him, right? And everybody in the city knew that she took on a lover and she didn't care. But as soon as Agamemnon sets foot into the castle, right, she goes on to kill Agamemnon, right? She goes on to kill it, and her lover too. They both took part in this because he and her lover wanted vengeance, so that when the doors actually closed behind, it talked about Cassandra being brought back with Agamemnon. It was Priam's daughter, the army's gift to him for the Battle of Troy, and she started going on about a prophecy and how the house is cursed and something bad's about to happen, and everybody's like freaking out. And the next time the door opens is after Agathis and Queen Clytemnestra kill Agamemnon, and it talks about how Agathis was thinking about killing her son Orestes, but he wasn't there, and but he would never kill Electra, right? And we talk about Queen Clytemnestra's children here in a second. Orestes, the son of Agamemnon, and Queen Clytemnestra. And this is where I talk about, by he would have been killed by Aegisthus had he been there. But when he finds out that his father Agamemnon's been killed, he's stuck in like the redemption loop. Like you have to go avenge your father's killer, but he's like my father's killer is my mother, so he was battling with a lot of inner turmoil, right? And he goes to an oracle in Delphi, and he's like, I need some help. And the oracle was like, you have to kill them both. And he's like, okay. It just says okay. and he comes back and he meets up with his child friend Pylades, and he meets back up with his sister Electra, and it talks how Electra's waiting for her brother to return, and he finally does, right? And then he unloads this whole dilemma onto Electra, who's been waiting for her brother, right? And Orestes and Pylades actually devise a plan. They're like, hey, we're gonna surprise attack my mom and her lover Aegisthus, and it talks about Electra being at the doors, and then all of a sudden her mom opens the door and sees a man with a blade, right? Sees a bunch of ruckus going on, and she's like, she yells out to a servant, "Bring me a weapon," and then she changes her mind, right? And she's like, okay. She's like, I'm gonna use a different weapon. She's like, I'm your mom, and it works briefly. It actually works, and Orestes yells out to Pylades like, "I can't do it," and Pylades is like, "We have to do it. Apollo said so." And Orestes proceeds with the plan. Again, everybody's gathered outside, and when Orestes walks back out, he's like, "I've done it. I've killed them," and he yells out to the crowd. He's like, "Do you see the women in black?" And it's the Furies, right? And they're like, "No, we don't see them." And he's like, "All right, cool." He's like, "My dead mom said them," right? And eventually Apollo's like, "Okay, you have to go to Athens." He's like, "You have to go to Artemis's, uh, well, not, you have to go to Athena's court, and you have to plead your case." And he pleads his case. Everybody's upset with him, angered with him, right? And Apollo's like, no, he's like, I told him to do it, telling Athena this. And then Orestes is just like, no. He's like, I did this. Apollo's not to blame. And everybody was shocked, right? He was the first of the House of Atreus to take blame, to take accountability. And Athena was like, all right, you're innocent. You're cleared. Not guilty by reason of insanity. No, I'm just kidding. But then Athena goes and tells the Furies, like, okay, leave him alone. He's good. And that pretty much concludes the curse on the House of Atreus. It was broken then, right then, after he admitted his guilt and then was proven innocent. So, yep. Or was it, right? Or was it? The next slide, we have something else. He plays another role in here. I say, what is truth? The facade of Iphigenia, right? So, in Hamilton's House of Atreus, it talks about there being a possible different ending to where Iphigenia lived, right? So, this talks about where she went down to actually, when she was going to be sacrificed, Artemis didn't want a human sacrifice. So, Artemis intervened and Iphigenia vanished, and a deer or a stag appeared instead. And Artemis whisked her away to the Tarian island and made her a priestess. And the Tarian island, the book actually says that it is Crimea. So in modern day Crimea. And she becomes a priestess, and the Tarians like they're still not very fond of Orestes, and Orestes and Pylades, after visiting an oracle, say like, "Hey, you need to go to this island and steal Artemis's like most prized possession, right? A priestess." And Orestes doesn't know Iphigenia is his sister, the priestess, and they actually catch Orestes and Pylades, and Tarians. They're like, hey, and they're under King Thoas. They're like, you have to sacrifice these people, right? And she's having like a moment of reflection, and she's like, I don't want to sacrifice, no more. She's like, this is messed up, right? So funny how the universe works, right? And she meets him in their cell, and she starts engaging in conversation, asking questions, right? And he's like, I know Agamemnon, Orestes is acting like he's not Orestes, and Pylades is just watching this unravel. And eventually he's like, you need to like let my friend go, and he'll deliver your letter, because she wants to get a letter back home saying that she's alive. And he's like, my friend will do it. Like Orestes, he's given up. And he's like, well, she gives the letter to Pylades, and she's like, I'm gonna tell you what it entails. And she's like, it's to my brother Orestes. And then Orestes is just like shocked, and Pylades is like, well, I won't have to go far, and just hands them the letter. And then they have reunite and then create a plan to escape. And they were going to kill the king and Iphigenia. She's like, no, we're not doing that. She's like, I got a different plan. She's like, these people got to be cleansed. She goes to the king. She's like, they got to be cleansed. They're too foul to be killed here. But then she gets them on a boat, and actually, the wind and the waves are keeping them at bay, and everybody sees what's going on, and they try to prevent them from leaving. And some of them go to the King Thoas, and they're like, hey, you know what's going on? And then he gets real angry, right? Even though she was like, hey, I got to take them off island anyway. Somehow he found out, or doesn't remember, approving her to do that. So he gets really upset. He's like, I'm going down there. And then actually Athena appears in her, I think they say, illuminate form. And it was like, no. She's like, you must let them pass. She's like, Poseidon's calming everything down. And happily ever after, I guess, after that. So, yeah, that is the story of the House of Atreus. I hope you all enjoyed.